fellow South Africans, our beloved Nelson Mandela, the founding president of our democratic nation, has departed.
Mandela, long live! Viva Nelson Mandela, viva! Thank you very much, President Jacob Zuma, former President Thabo Mbeki, former President F.W. de Klerk, leaders and excellencies of various countries who have come to South Africa. Who love Madiba dearly.
And what do you think of the other guy?
The other guy?
You know him?
No.
The white guy?
The white one?
Yeah.
Not yet. De Klerk.
Right.
Yeah, I know this guy. I know.
What do you
And
think
Madiba.
De Klerk was the first president to bite the bullet and say, apartheid is unworkable.
The country that was the epitome of injustice suddenly becomes the epitome of peaceful resolution of what appeared to be totally intractable problems.
The good thing about him is that once he became president, whatever his own political origins, he then did not stop processes that had already started, inching towards the negotiations that ultimately we held.
There are not that many examples in history of leaders who negotiate the end of their own system. But F.W. de Klerk had vision and he had guts, and he still does.
My name is Frederik Willem de Klerk. I'm called by my initials, in Afrikaans, my home language, FW, in English, FW. If I look at my career as a president, I really have no regrets. What I did prevented a catastrophe in South Africa.
De Klerk came from a very right-wing pro-apartheid corner of white South Africa. His father was one of the leaders and architects of the apartheid system.
As a child and a very young man, I grew up in an atmosphere where the whites in South Africa were preoccupied still with the conflict between the English and my people, the Afrikaners. About the 27,000 women and children which died in British concentration camps. My people.
The whole central theme of Afrikaans history had been the development of its right to self-determination.
When the apartheid system was constructed, it was to protect the Afrikaner population, because here is this white tribe in Africa, very small, surrounded by these threatening black horns. So they felt threatened.
This small country store behind me, with a customary crowd of idlers on the front porch, might be found in any small rural American community. But the dirt road that runs parallel to this small country store marks the beginning of the town of Nelspruit, where natives are forced to live.
I believe everything we have done in the last 300 years and built up should be preserved and not be swallowed up by an I wouldn't say inferior race, because I don't believe it is an inferior race, but a lesser, a race which is in a lesser state of development, that's all.
What is often forgotten is that apartheid, which we prefer to call separate development, there was a developmental policy. Under separate development, each and every black child were in school and stayed there until they were 16 at least. Many, many new medical services were broadened towards all blacks. So under separate development, there was a big improvement of the physical lot of black people in South Africa.
I myself remember being 10 years old, and we were part of the forcible removal of people from the city of Johannesburg to Lenasia, which was designated for people of the Indian race. And so if you look at what apartheid was really about, it was about illegal and inhumane treatment of people. It was about dispossession of land. It was about the fact that people were taken from where they were and placed in what we call the black holes of the country, where in fact they were deprived of dignity and of living a life which is what makes you a human being.
We're not allowed to sit on a seat designated for white people. And almost all the seats were written no blacks. We're not allowed to use certain entrances as shops. Most of the time we bought through windows. And we had to carry a special booklet called a dompas, an identity document, which only blacks carried, which said where you are allowed to live and not to live, we're allowed to work or not to work, because we're black. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And all those things were humiliating to any normal thinking human beings.
It was rightly called a crime against humanity, a crime, a sin, a disastrous social application that caused immense misery to millions of people over a long period of time. That's the starting off point.
Whites were very concerned because they felt that if they surrendered sovereignty over their own affairs, the same things would happen in South Africa as it had happened in so many other African countries, that it wouldn't be a democracy, there'd be one man, one vote, one time. And yet, from the end of the 1970s, the National Party leadership had begun to realize that its policy of separate development was going nowhere.
I will dedicate myself, as far as it is possible, to create better relations between whites and non-whites in this country.
We tried a balancing act, but